folks, it's Bentley sitting in for Patrick once again. Patrick has asked that someone do a Old Susanna workshop, so we're going to try to knock out Old Susanna. Old Susanna, a song written by Stephen Foster in the late 1800s, using this simple 3-chord system that we're all used to. I'm going to start off by playing it in C, D, and G, and using those 3 simple chords. Then what makes the song interesting is the syncopated rhythm that was prevalent back in the late 1800s to make the song sort of swing. So we will try doing this using just the simple frailing strum. I'm going to try to do it nice and slow and in the key of G. Oh, I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee, going to Louisiana, my true love for to see. It rained all night the day I left, the weather it was dry. The sun so hot I froze to death, Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, you cry for me. I've come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. Next thing I want to do is talk about the structure of the song. Old Susanna is really 6 different lines, each of 4 measures. So I'm going to draw a grid here of 6 lines and 4 measures. Okay, there's the 6 lines. Here's 4 measures each. And as we're playing, we started with the key of G, and it's key of G on the first line until you get to the last measure, when it becomes the key of, when it becomes a D7 chord, which is in the Nashville numbering system is a 5 chord. I'm not going to write 1 in these other 3 boxes, but just remember that the blanks there are the number 1 chord. In this case, G. Then the 4th box, number 5, is a D7. Goes back to G. Then, just for the last half of the 3rd measure, we go back to 5, the D7 chord again. This is repeated in the next 2 lines. We got a 5 chord there, and then just the last half here, we have a 5 chord. Then we go to the C chord in the 5th line, and the C chord in the key of G would be a 4. And we actually have 2 measures of that. Then again a measure of G, and then a measure of D7, the 5 chord again. And then the last line, the 6th line, is another half measure of our 5 chord. So each measure represents 2 frailing strokes, 2 bum ditties, and when we have a half measure, there's only 1. So it's a single frailing stroke for that. So in the key of G, again, we're going to have 3 measures of G, each with 2 full frailing strums, and then the 1 measure of D7. 2 full measures of G, a half measure there of G, a D7, and then back to a full measure of G. The 3rd line, 3 measures of G, and then a D7. The 4th line, 2.5 measures of G. So with 2.5 measures, there's 2 frailing strokes per measure, so 5 frailing strokes of G, followed by a D7, and then full measure of G. The 5th line, we have 2 measures of C, followed by a measure of G, and then a D7, and then 2.5 measures of G, a D7, 1 frailing stroke of D7, and at last ending on G. Okay, next thing I want to do is to change the key. As you may have noticed, the key of G is a little bit high for me to be singing in, and I would prefer to sing in the key of D. So first thing most people think of when changing keys is to grab the capo. So we can grab the capo and put it way up here at the 7th fret. And then play the G, the same G fingerings that I just did to get to the key of D. So I'm starting on the 3rd string. But as you may have noticed, as I brought the capo up, it raised all of the notes higher, and so it's actually an octave above where I would like to sing. I'd like to sing it lower, so I'm not going to use capo. I'm going to use the D fingerings. Now when it comes to changing to the key of D, we use the same pattern in the 1-4-5 system, but with D, in the key of D, D is the number 1 chord, the 5 chord in the key of D is A, and the 4 chord is G. So shifting to the key of D, I'm going to use the D chord, the G chord, and the A chord instead of G, C, and D. And using those D fingerings, I'm going to play just regular straight frailing strum. Oh, I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. I'm going to Louisiana, my true love for to see. It rained all night the day I left, the weather it was dry. The sun so hot I froze to death, Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. So much more comfortable for me to sing in the key of D. And now adding some hammer-ons and pull-offs, and I think I even will throw a slide in there.